Good afternoon, this is Scott and welcome to the weekly trade report video. Today is November 12th, 2017. So if we take a look here at the Dow, we can see that the market's still in a nice strong uptrend. Dow pulled back for a few days, but not seeing too much to worry about there. Nice strong uptrend. If we can just draw a trend line here, see in general the market's just steady higher. So market still looks strong. SPY, similar story. Nice steady uptrend. Nothing to be concerned about at this point. Market still strong. Still seeing strength in many sectors. IWM, nothing compelling on this chart. Looks like it's got some resistance up here at 150. Just kind of pulling back a little bit. So not seeing too much there on the small cap ETF. Let's take a look at the IBB. So the IBB, here was a kind of a bottom point right here. You can kind of see it almost looks like a bear flag set up here. Looks like there's some support right in this area here. It's having a hard time breaking down below that. So maybe this is kind of a basing pattern where it turns up, but at this point it's too early to tell. So nothing really compelling there on the IBB. Almost looks like a bear flag, but there's still lots of good setups in the biotech sector. So more focus on individual names versus indexes and things like that. So I like to focus on what the individual chart pattern is saying, but it's always good to have the underlying sector strength as well. XLE, energy sector remains strong. We showed this pattern right here, right through this kind of pattern right there through 69. Had a nice break, kind of pulling back, resting a little bit, but still lots of strength in the oil energy sector, and keep that sector on your watch list. Okay, so let's go into individual names from last week's top trade ideas, and we'll talk about some of the ones I traded and what happened. So first up, let's take a look at HZNP, which is one that I traded. So here was a pattern I was seeing developing, which looked pretty good, and this thing had a decent break on earnings, but then just flushed out this day here. So this one shook me out, so I took a loss. I think I got out 14 area somewhere in there, but this one just is very nasty pattern there, and just kept then you can see the follow-on days kind of pulled back. So nothing on this chart anymore. Sometimes this stuff happens, but this was just a nasty washout on the day of earnings. You can see how big that candle was. So that was a losing trade. Sometimes you have losing trades and you move on and you move on to the next one, and that just happens sometimes. So that was one of them for me. Let's see, RTRX. So this one ended up being a nice day trade for me. So I seen this pattern on this 25 break, and I bought it and sold it at 25.90 something. So this is a good one-day trade based on the price action, and you can see how this thing just kind of gave it all back. So if you were swing trading this one, you got to kind of get out as it breaks back below 25, or it violates this trend line right here. So if the breakout fails and it's not doing what you thought, so this was kind of a key support line here. And so if you're using this as your risk level, as it breaks below that, you got to get out. And you can see this one just really got hammered. And so keep that in mind. They don't all work, and if they fail, you just got to cut them and move on. So ALBO, kind of like the way this one is developing. It's very thin traded stock. It trades what is that? 20,000 shares or less. But this spot here at 28 be a spot to watch. It's kind of developing nicely, kind of like this, but very, very thin. So keep that in mind. If it gets some big volume, maybe worth a trade, but probably on the lower end of the watch list. I wouldn't focus too much on that ALBO at this point. Okay, CORI, nothing on this chart. Looks like it may be stabilizing around 10, above, a little bit above 10. If we can get back up here to this resistance around 1130 spot, be one to watch for a break, but nothing right now for CORI, just a failed break. Okay, ZGNX. So I really like the way this pattern is developing. You can see a big, huge break, and it topped out right around, let's say, 42, with the high of this candle wick right there. We kind of just draw a line right across here. You can see it looked like it wanted to break a few days ago through this 42 area, and then it failed. It had earnings, and I think they lost on earnings. But anyway, it's perking back up. You know, biotechs aren't so dependent on earnings. It's really just a lot of it's you know, whether their drug gets approved in the long term. And so, but this pattern, you can see it's in this nice little consolidation range bound between around 38 to 42. And so this is a very bullish consolidation you see in here. And I do think this one's going to test this 42 area and end up going higher in the near future. So ZGNX, really like the way that one's looking, the way it's developing. Keep an eye on that one next week. Okay, EDIT. This is another choppy bio name, and so that it's not a real clear level. It's got a lot of candle wicks here and kind of choppy. But if you look at this, you can kind of see the spot right there around 25. See that? Kind of right there, kind of got rejected. Kind of the candle wick there got rejected. So it's tested this spot, kind of basically once or twice here, 3, 4, and then it failed again. So now it's perking back up. So this one, maybe through a 25 break, it'd be worth a trade, maybe up to 27. CDNA, another one that I really like, and once again we talked about this pattern here of this basing for right around 20 something days before it breaks, and here you are on this one right at this you know, 20 plus days here trying to break through this 6th level. And so this one, it tried to break 6 and see how it got rejected there, and then really shook some people out. You know, had a false breakout and then pulled back and then really washed almost down to 5. So nice wash out there. And so this one I thought was actually going to break down from this base and start to roll over, and then sure enough it rallied back up. So this one is on watch again through this 6 area, and so keep an eye on this one. The CDNA looks really good if we can get through that 6th spot, and just keep an eye on it. I like the way it's developing, had good volume on Friday, and so it could be pulling another one of these type of patterns, and it's been a huge mover, as you know, from $1 all the way to $6. So this thing's it's got some strength to it, and we could be seeing this one break out of this basing period to new highs next week. CDNA looks really good, so keep that on your top watch list. Okay, MRVL. This is a nice pattern that really you didn't have a chance to get in on. It had some merger news with another, I think it was what's the other name? CVDM or something like that, some other name. They merged, and so that came out, you know, after hours, and this thing gapped up on Monday, and you know, basically if you didn't get in before the gap, then you know, you kind of break even if you bought it on the open. So nothing on this MRVL at this point. You know, the trade was, you know, unless you bought it, like I said, before the gap, then you're kind of break even at this point, and so I don't see anything there now on MRVL. Okay, ILMN. So this one, still like the way it's developing. It didn't really break the way it looked like it was going to. See that right there, through that 215 spot. It's kind of tested it several times, and you could almost use kind of this rising trend line here. So this one just maybe needs to base a little bit. You know, let the volatility contract a little bit more before it actually breaks. But keep an eye on this one maybe in the future. I can get back near 215, but nothing right now on ILMN. Okay, Planet, similar to MRVL. This one had a nice pattern, and this big red candle basically, you know, basically washed it out and basically ruined the pattern. And then I guess it had good earnings and gapped up, and so you could have maybe bought this one on the gap day. It does look higher, but you know, the key would be trying to get here on this 27, with this one, you know, gapped up. So not seeing too much there now. You know, this one could go higher, but maybe needs to consolidate a little while before it continues its uptrend. So okay, HCLP. This one been watching for a while. Still like it. It's kind of a slower mover. You can see here, based on closing prices, this clear resistance right there at this you know, 1050 spot, right? And so you can see back here, tested it once, twice, 3, 4, and you kind of getting this ascending triangle type contraction, volatility contraction going on. And so this one, you know, closed at 1060, And so I think this one can have a nice move. It's not a big mover, but it's a good looking chart, and I think this one's going to go higher, this HCLP. So it could be a nice mover next week. Okay, APTO. Let's see here. So if you take a look at this one, this is basically a small cap bio, pretty choppy name. If we look at this chart here, a couple key levels is this 170 spot, right? Based on closing prices, you can see that it closed right at 170, and you can see back here it's tested the spot. This is one that I traded a while back, I think when it was back up here near 170, thinking it was going to break, and it didn't break, and it kind of gave it back, so I had to get out. But this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth time, sixth time actually if you take this candle into account. But so this one is back up near this 170 spot. Another key spot is up here based on the high of the wicks is this 175. So APTO is getting back up there. I think this one could actually break through 170. It looks like it closed right there. If it gets to 175, it's a definite buy because it's something's driving this thing higher. Could go to $2 or better. And so APTO is right there. Really great looking setup for next week. Keep that one on your top watch list. Okay, AMPE, this is almost like a wedge play. It looks like this 120 area is kind of a key spot. Another small cap name here. It's only $1 a share, but it looks like it's creating like basically a triangle type pattern, grinding higher. This one, if it can get some volume, maybe through the 120 spot, be worth a trade. Keep that one on your list there. AMP still looks good. VALE. Looked like it wanted to kind of push through this spot here, 1050, but what happened is it got rejected, so back into this range again. So nothing there on Vail. Maybe if it gets back to 1050, might be worth looking at again, but nothing there anymore on Vail. BTU, I kind of liked this one a while back on this 29.30 break, but it's just pretty choppy. Not seeing too much right now. Maybe if it gets to 32 and tries to break that, it might be worth a trade. But BTU just looks mediocre at this point. Don't see too much there on BTU anymore. DVAX, nothing there either. It looks like it was going to test back here on this green candle, test that 24 spot, maybe break that, but then it got rejected. So now it's back in this range. So no clear pattern there on DVAX anymore. Okay, EMPH, this was a nice one. I didn't get it, but here was a pattern, kind of this, here's your basing pattern there, and then it had a nice break. So the trigger on this one was get it on the break of this, right around 160 area, and you can see how it had a nice candle this day, and had some nice continuation, got all the way to $2 or better. And so if you were going to trade this, you would use this level right here as, as the low of the base, right? So this is 125 area, and 160, so then you would take the difference, 160 minus 125, and that gives you, what is that, and then you just add that on to the 160, and that gives you, maybe a $2 target, 40 cents or so, based on the depth of the pattern. You can see how it got up to 2. So that was a nice setup. Looks a little bit extended now, so, but there was a nice trade there on the EMPH. Okay, MDGL looks like it's still basing. Looked like it wanted to test this 50 spot, but it looks like it got rejected. So nothing there on this MDGL. Keep an eye on this one. Maybe it's going to bottom out. And it looks like it's range bound between right here. Here's your kind of the low of the base, right? So 44 or 42.50 area, and could find some support here and perk back up near 50 for a break. But nothing right now on MDGL. Looks like it's still consolidating those gains. Okay, SVRA, another thin traded biotech name. Still looks really good. It's right here at this 950. See that right there? 950 spot, which is a key level. So this one actually looks pretty good for next week if we can get through that 950. Looks like it closed at 952. Like I said, it's pretty thin. This one traded a little over 100,000 shares on Friday, but the pattern's there. I like this one through 950. I would use a target. Let's see, 850 would be the low of the base, somewhere in this area here, and that would give you a 1050 target on this SVRA. Nice looking setup though. I like that. Okay, SND. Here was the pattern right there through 750. You can see how the low of the base right there. There's the base. So this gives you 650, 750, gives you a target of 850, and you can see this one actually beat that, got to 9 or better. So if you were to trade that one, you would taking some profits at 850 and clean, basically closed out when it got up, up here around 9. But very nice run there, a nice breakout there on that SND. Okay, FIVE, decent chart, not the greatest. Kind of a level there, right around 50, 58 as a resistance spot. Can't really get through it. Pattern just looks so-so to me, so I wouldn't trade it. Okay, big. Okay, big's got a spot right here at this 53, 50 spot, and this one still looks pretty good actually. You can see here it's kind of the low of the base right down here, and kind of tested this spot a few times, and now it's trying to break out. So I think this big looks pretty good, and I think this one's going to go higher. It's BIG. So that, I'll keep big on your watch list for next week. That one does look good. Okay, NAC, spot at 220, kind of got rejected. Looks like it's pulling back from that spot, but I do think this one could test that 220 spot again. I keep an eye on that one. That one looks pretty good. Okay, next up, Twitter. Okay, so Twitter is a position that I'm in right now. So if we can take a look at this, what happened was with Twitter is Twitter had a nice breakout on earnings. It had two big day run, and so it got a little bit extended. And so I was looking for an entry point on this one as it gets extended. So this one, as it pulled back, it was basically getting to the low of this candle. So right down in this area right here, which is where it gapped up to, it looked like it was going to find some support. And so so I got in around 1975. So that's where I'm in at, right in this area. I didn't pick the low, but it looked like it was trying to bottom out down here, right? And so finally started to perk up. It got two nice green days, and so it pulled back. This is what they call a breakout pullback. On earnings, a lot of times the earnings ones will have these big moves, and they kind of, people take their eyes off of them. Profit taking comes in, and they pull back, and that gives you a good entry for the next leg up. And so this one, I think Twitter, I'm looking to get out of this one at 21, and then basically I'd probably close my full position as it gets back near this high up here. Okay, so this is the range right now. If it gets back up here, I'd sell and then keep an eye on it. Maybe it gets rejected and then finally breaks. But so I really like Twitter for 21, possibly 22 next week. We'll see if we can get that. Okay, GPRK, 950 area is, this is an oil name, and this one had a decent break. Chart's not that pretty, but had a decent break through 950. I do think it's going to go higher, along with the rest of the energy sector. Okay, HRTX, this one had a spot at 1750, and this one couldn't get through that, got rejected, so nothing there on HRTX. Maybe if we can get back to 1750, worth a trade. Okay, KANG, still like the way this one looks. This one's been basing for quite a while, right around trying to break through this 1450 type area, right in here. And so I'd keep an eye on this one. I think if it breaks Friday's high or Thursday's high, somewhere in this area, right around 1470 area, could have a nice push. But this is a long base, this was back here, multi-month base, and so I think this one is ready to make a move. This KANG, this one is a top watch. It looks good. Okay, IOVA, really nice looking setup. Another pretty decent clean break there at $8. You can see kind of a ascending triangle type pattern, bio name. So this one through 8 looks good. This IOVA, I like that one. Okay, ECYT. So this is a nice one too. So this is kind of like a little bit like Twitter, right? You had a big break and then you had a breakout pullback and then it perked up and then retested this. So this is what they call kind of a double bottom right here, and double bottomed and then starts to put in, you know, a higher low right here, and then breaks out through this, you know, this kind of recent highs right around this area here, around, you know, 520 area. And so this one I think could go back up to 6 and possibly even up here in the next week or so. I think this one could be shooting back up here. So ECYT, I do think that one looks like it's going higher as well. Okay, Kura, Kura. Here was the pattern right there based on you know, Thursday's closing candle right there at this 15 area, and you can see it had a nice break all the way 1640, and nice move there. Could be a bit extended, but it does look like it's going higher as well. KURA. Okay, Lulu. Alright, so Lulu, let's see. So here was the base right down here, right? It's been basing for a while between this range of 58 and let's call it 64, something like that, 63 and a half, right in here. And you can see this one finally broke, finally cleaned the highs and closed up here. So Lulu I think is going higher. You know, I would use, based on this pattern depth here, you got a 4, 5, 6 points from the breakout. So that would give you right around a 70 target on this one. So I do think this Lulu is going higher, and it's a nice looking breakout. So if you're patient with this one, I think that's going to pay off, as long as it doesn't fall back below this area here, fall back into that range. Okay, we just got a few more. INSM, nice biotech, breaking out, pulled back. So it's got some resistance right around this area here at 31. Nice candle on Friday. I think this one's ready to make a move. If you're looking to trade this one, I'd use somewhere in this area as your base, right? So this gives you maybe right on 26, 27 area, and then you got a breakout spot around 3150-ish. So take that depth, add it on. But this one's been basing for a while, so it looks ready to continue next leg up. Really like INSM, looks really good. Okay, WUBA, UBA, WUBA. Nice candle on Friday, trying to break out of this range through 69 area. Looks really good. I would use the 6250 somewhere right in here as my pattern depth, the low end, and then take that range, that depth there, add that to the breakout, give you a good target on this one. WUBA looks really good. It looks like it's going to break next week. Been consolidating for quite a while. Okay, Juno, really like this Juno, okay? It's kind of hard to tell what this thing's going to do, but I do think longer term it's going higher, and I do think there's, this thing is got some more upside. So, big break, you know, had a, you know, multi-day pullback, and, you know, once it started to, you know, perk up on Friday, had some good volume, ramped up, got some resistance at 60, could pull back a little bit again, so at this point it's really range bound. But I think it could test 60 again, maybe get rejected, pull back, put in some, you know, another basing pattern, something like this, for you know, a few weeks or better. But this Juno, I do think this Juno is going higher, and basically when you get these big breakouts like that, and you get these multi-day pullbacks, it's usually a good entry point as all the profit takers sell out, and then you know, everybody stops watching it and has a big spike back up. But that Juno does look good, longer term, very strong chart there. And then last up is this OMED, OMED, spot at 5. It's tested it right back here, pull all the way back, tested it again, got rejected, and now it's closed at 486. Keeping on this one through 5. It's a bio name, so let's see if this thing can get through 5, be worth the trade there on OMED. So, all right, guys, have a good rest of your Sunday, and we'll find some winners and do some good trading next week. All right, thanks.